Here come the video freaks. And so we were going along. We were in the counterculture in Manhattan. You know, we were hippie types, and we would just go out and we would just shoot whatever we felt like shooting. We'd hear about this dance performance or this music performance, and we'd just get all the equipment, which was a little heavy at the time, and we'd schlep it over and just shoot what we felt like shooting. And then after a while, I don't want to go into all the details, but we made a connection with CBS. And CBS, the assistant to the director of CBS wanted to have us document the avant-garde movement of the late 60s. We said, okay, I guess we got to do something. And then we started hiring people. So the 3 of us, original members, became 10. And it became this collective, and we just went all over the place. And one of the most interesting places we went to was Chicago to videotape the conspiracy trial. And David Court had gone to school with Abby Hoffman, so we got in to talk to Abby Hoffman and the Yippies, and Jerry Rubin was there, and then we got some great footage of Abby talking about the revolution. You know, man, we're gonna get, you know, we want dope. Anyway, then we made, and somehow through that connection, we made a connection to talk to the Black Panthers.
Wow. And
the Black Panthers in Chicago were being funded by a wealthy woman who had a condo, and the connection was, okay, let's go to the condo and talk to Fred Hampton. And so we did that, and it was really an incredible experience. He was only 22 years old. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And, you know, when we got back to, you know, put everything together to show it to CBS for their approval, he got killed by the Chicago police. And we realized that he was sitting here, there was another guy here and another guy there. One of those 2 guys was the snitch.
Oh, wow.
Because there was an underground person in the Panther Party who opened the door for the police at 4 o'clock in the morning so they could slaughter him.
Wow.
And it was just really, it was really amazing. And so when it came time to show CBS what we had done, we had this loft on Prince Street, and we had, you know, cameras set up and everything like that. And the doors open, and here these 3 dudes from CBS in their trench coats come out of the elevator, and they looked around like they were deer in the headlights. I mean, they probably haven't ever been below 42nd Street, you know. And so we put them in a loft next door and piped in on a monitor our show. And before that happened, the person who hired us, Dan West, came into the control room, and Perry and David and I, and said, we want you to show this tonight about Fred Hampton. And it was this soppy, watered down version of people looking at Fred Hampton's coffin as they filed by. And we said, no. And Perry looked at him and said, if you want us to show this thing, I'm gonna pull every plug in this studio. So we mutinied, and we showed our program. However, CBS was not pleased with us, because what we did was actually, up to that time, ABC, NBC, and CBS only showed scripted things on television. And there were no other channels. It was just those 3 channels. And we were showing what was actually happening. We never had scripts. We just videotaped what was happening, that's all. And so it was kind of like reality TV before reality TV. So the head of programming came out and he'd had some beer because we gave him a six-pack. He said, "We will try to avoid putting this kind of thing on television for the next 7 years." And of course, it was another 20 years before they actually put anything like we were shooting. So anyway, the group, after that whole thing, I got tired of being in a group. I wanted to do my own thing. I had been doing this for 3.5 years, and so I ran away from home, and I came to California in 1973 for good.
Okay. What you'd gone out to California to document the avant-garde, so this was not your first trip to California?
Right, so it was thanks actually to CBS that I got out here first, because we did go out, they sent us to California as well.
So where did you go in California first? LA?
LA. We landed in LA with all this equipment, and they rented a big motor home with us, and we threw all the equipment in there. It was a 3 monitor system, so they had 3 cameras and 3 monitors. And I just basically stayed behind the camera the whole time. Because editing videotape at that time, it was like audio tape. You had to splice it, and you had to put a little piece of tape on it. And it was, I was too impatient, so I just stayed behind the camera. So we came out here, and we did in about 3 weeks, we shot about 30 tapes, 30 half-an-hour tapes.
Wow.
Or no, they're actually 20 minutes. Those reel-to-reel Sony Portapac tapes were only 20 minutes long.
So were you shooting mostly artists?
Yeah, we went to Pacific High School up in Los Gatos, and that was total, everybody was tripped out on acid, and everybody, the kids, Oh, and the hog farm was there. And
okay,
yeah.
with Wavy Gravy?
Wavy Gravy had broken his back, and he had this big cast on, and he was just sort of holding court. It was really great.
Who are some of the most memorable figures that you videotaped?
Well, Fred Hampton. There was a guy named Dr. Hippocrates. Dr. Hip. Do you remember him? We got some tape of him. Yeah. Yes, he did. He did. Dr. Hip. Yeah. We videotaped him. David and I did that.
Did inflatables or Exploratorium?
Oh yes, and before the Exploratorium was the Exploratorium, it was this huge, big, huge open space, and the people from the Pacific High School had some people who'd made an inflatable, and I'm talking about an inflatable. If you squared this whole 80-foot by 15.5-foot gallery out and made an inflatable, it was that big, it was huge. And then of course they put this electronic music on it, and it was all just really tripped out. And I spent my time on one of those forklift things that goes up about 40 feet in the air, a cherry picker, and I just was on the camera. I was just panning back and forth for about 2 hours, back and forth like that. And so that was great. Who else did we? Well, Abby Hoffman was really an interesting guy. Yeah.
So you came out first to LA, and then did you end up
Then
coming up
we came all the way up, and I walked into a grocery store in LA at about 10 o'clock at night, and I saw all these vegetables all over the place, and I thought, oh my God, this is California. Look at all these vegetables. It's so beautiful, all the colors and stuff like that. And Perry looked at me and said, well, if you like Southern California, wait till you get to Northern California. So when I came out here, I knew where I was going to escape to,
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. And so, was it Berkeley or just California at large? I mean,
Well, San Francisco. I started on Potrero Hill
okay.
in San Francisco.
So when did you land on Potrero Hill? Did you move in to San Francisco, and when was that exactly?
73.
73.
Yeah.
Now, somewhere around in there, I understand that you were somehow found what's referred to in the book as the goddess movement. Does that mean that you read something by Maria Gimbutas, or?
Yeah, right. Well, she was all part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 70s, a lot of feminists were into the goddess movement, and there was a big conference down in Santa Cruz called Return of the Great Goddess, and Carol Christ came from Harvard and said, oh, this is the best, you know, the most important religious movement in many, many decades and stuff like that. But it was just a bunch of feminists, and we were really sick of the patriarchy.
Okay.
We were just had it up to here.
Okay.
I had been married and divorced by then, so I'd really had it up to here.
Okay. Well, now that marriage and divorce, and the marriage was probably to this man who was connected with the Lakota Sioux. Is that right?
Yes, Cy Griffin.
That's a very. I'd love to hear about that episode of your life, because that sounds really interesting as well.
Well, before I went, I came out here permanently. I went back to get my stuff, and I met this man named Cy Griffin. And Cy was really an amazing person. He had worked on not Wall Street, in the advertising, Madison Avenue, right.
Walter Thompson.
And for J. Walter Thompson, and wore fancy suits and stuff like that. But he rebelled because all of a sudden, one day he had 3 generals from the Vietnam War sitting in his office asking him to spin the Vietnam War. And he quit. He just absolutely quit. He refused to do it. The problem was he had 4 children, okay? And so I saw him, I met him at a party, and I saw his show. He had these really amazing audio and visual shows with not one word, and they were, and he would fade one image in and out the other like that, and had all this beautiful music, and you'd fade it with a dial, and I learned how to do that because I ended up doing it for 2 weeks when the computer broke. But he lived on West 89th Street, and one day in his apartment he needed a slide ruler, and he found out that there was somebody 2 apartments below who had one. He knocked on Richard Erdos's door, and Richard Erdos, originally from Vienna, I think, was this amazing person who had gone around and taken his whole family in a Volkswagen bus around to the Hopi, the Navajo, the Lakota Sioux, all these different tribes, and on different reservations, and he made an archive that's now at Yale. Actually, Yale got it, and so Cy started talking to him, and for some reason, Richard said that they're going to do the ghost dance again. Now, the ghost dance had been outlawed in this country since after Wounded Knee, you know, the book Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. It was that era that when they come in and slaughter the Lakota Sioux. And so Leonard Crow Dog, who was had a medicine man, he was actually the head medicine man for the American Indian movement. Remember that in the 70s? And when they were, Cy got to know him and his family, his father, Henry Crow Dog, and he had gone out to the Lakota Sioux reservation on Rosebud in South Dakota about maybe 3 times, and he become blood brothers with Leonard. And when I met him, he said, "Would you like to go to a Sundance ceremony?" And I said, "Sure," you know. Well,